Hi, this is James Zhang with Full Capital, and I got Jakob Andersen with Newmark here with me to jumpstart the What's the Deal series for this year. Jacob, how's it going?
Very good. Thank you, James. And thank you for having me here today.
Of course, of course. So we're going to jump into this deal, Hewlin Park Place, 100 units over in Fort Worth. But before we do that, Jacob, maybe give people a brief intro on you and how you got into this deal in this business.
In this business, yes, that's a good question. Again, my name is Jakob Andersen. I work with Newmark in Dallas. I've been a part of this company for the last decade. Some background in on the asset management side and the ownership side. So overall, been in the business for now almost 20 years.
All right. So let's jump into Hewlin Park Place over in Southwest Fort Worth. Give us a little bit of the lay of the land for people who maybe aren't from DFW of where this deal sits.
Yes, and you're marked it very nicely on this map here. So as you can see, you're sitting about 10-minute drive from downtown Fort Worth. And this side of town, I would call it, it's one of the major growth corridors of Fort Worth and DFW in general. You're sitting right off a main street called Hewlin and in a new tollway called Chisholm Trail Parkway. Those have been the main generators of newer development over there. And one thing that could be highlighted, you sit about 4 minutes drive from Clearfork, which is a master development site that sits right down the street. You're going to see some of the highest end shops there, such as Tesla and Prada and Gucci and Louis Vuitton. You also have Acme Bricks, their new headquarters there. You have Lockheed Martin within a very short distance. And from Hewlin Park Place, you have in walking distance a Central Market, Container Store, and whatnot. So it is one of those growth corridors where we see a lot of the people that really know how to do demographic reports, they are located.
All right. And then this specific deal, so this was built in the 80s, 100 units. I guess, how long has the seller owned this deal and sort of what have they done over at the property in the last couple of years?
Absolutely. To give a little history on the property, this was owned long-term for an out-of-state, actually one of my countrymen from Denmark, he owned it for a long time. The current owner is local. They acquired it off-market in 17, 18. They took over, I would call a very clean property, but outdated property. So what they have been working on is a lot of the fundamentals that just kind of sits there when you own a property for a long time. One of the main things that I noticed is when you walk around, all retaining walls has been repaired. All retaining walls are now stone. They're not no railroad ties. There has been a lot of attention paid to walkways and how the water flows off. So a lot of those mechanical parts you would call kind of boring parts, they absolutely checks out. It's a well-maintained property. Besides that, the owners of the property now, they have gone in and done some upgraded units. And on this spread of pictures, we can see a couple of them later on. We'll see a little bit more delineation between some of the classics, whatnot. But they have gone in and put some new flooring in, and in some instances even added bedrooms.
All right. And then this, Jacob, you failed to mention in the intro about your past swimming history. This is a pretty nice pool here. You can
It's
get some
very
laps.
nice pool. Yes, absolutely.
So we had
Absolutely.
to put a good pool picture in there for you.
Yep.
But yeah. So and then I guess I'm noticing here, and we'll get into floor plans a little bit, but so it's all first floor entry, and this is 100 townhomes. Is that right?
That is correct. So you
Okay.
do have your own entry. You don't share really any entry points. You do have your own entries.
Okay. All right. So let's jump in. So 1980s property, HVAC, individual HVAC, individual water heater, and then I don't. They all have their own washer dryer connection. Is that right?
That's correct. They do
Okay.
have it, and some of the units now they do also come with washer and dryers.
Okay. All right. So they're leasing some of the units. All right. are leasing some of the washer dryer units and things like that. And then how are they managing this property right now?
So right now it is managed by a third-party group called Devonshire. They're a local group based in DFW. They've been around for a while, and they have had the property as long as this group has owned it.
Okay. All right. Nice. I think we'll get into this a little bit, but so right now they're doing 8 reserve spaces for about $40 on the other income side. And then I think the next slide we'll get into sort of rent roll of what they've done on the interiors of the property. So a lot on this sheet. So maybe let's break down what the G and what the C and platinum and all that stuff. So what have they upgraded at the property so far?
Absolutely. And this is where the history of the property comes into play a bit here. So you will see the designations of G, C's, and P's. The G stands for gold standard. The P stands for platinum. The gold was done by the previous owner, and the platinum is the units that the current owner, they have enhanced. You have the C's. That's basically where the units, they have direct access. It's not a backyard, and we'll get into that a little later, but they don't really have their own backyards. It's more just a patio kind of going out to the open space. It is something that the current ownership wanted to do, but they haven't gotten to yet. Since it is a townhome layout, the backyard concept is something that goes well in hand with it. Those units with that access is designated by the C.
All right. And then so right now it's about 37% 2 beds and 63% 1 beds. So on the right hand side we have sort of, all right, some of these 1 bed 1 bath, you're thinking maybe you could potentially convert into a 2 bedroom with some, I guess, is there a vaulted ceiling right there that maybe you can just floor it off, or what's the thought process there?
That is correct. And we're not done confusing people here, because that is actually the next level you can. The property so far has taken 9 A1 units, the 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, and they've turned them into the B1s that you see below here. And what they did is, in the living room, you do have vaulted ceiling that goes all the way up. They went in upstairs to put the new flooring in and created that extra bedroom. And that has worked well, along with updating the unit. So they have been able to secure about $100 in additional rent for that product. You still have about 16 units left on the property where you can do this.
Okay, so certain units that you could potentially come in, do that,
Correct.
bring it from 1 to 2, and you're thinking 100, maybe $150 more in rent on those units.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay. All right. All right. Let's jump over. So this is sort of comparing your classic to gold, and then I guess the highest level is the platinum, right?
Yes.
What's the difference in the platinum and gold? Is it?
So it's mainly the hard surfaces where they have put the granite in. When you go and look at it, there's a slight difference in the overall look and the paint colors, whatnot. Ultimately, what we are trying to create here is a bit of a roadmap. What we see when people are coming in, everyone's got their take on how to do upgrades. But we're trying to create a roadmap, since there are these different levels in place. So people say, okay, this is what they've been able to get, and these are some of the associated costs by doing it. Ultimately, I think a lot of people will look at this and say, okay, we're going to do this, but the technology is starting to really happen. And with the type of tenants you attract to a townhome project like this here, I think it would be well worth to add like a tech package and whatnot to the property that has not been done yet. But we try to show where the starting point. You still have some of these classic units, as we're showing pictures of, and some examples of the upgraded products.
All right. So some of the upgrades. So the 78 units available for upgrade. That's really the guys who haven't been taken all the way to the premium platinum level, and
That's
then the secondary, and then the finals here to get it all the way up to platinum. Okay.
That is correct.
So obviously, rents have been doing well in DFW. So let's talk about sort of trade outs on what you think sort of new leases could get on some of these on this property.
Yeah, and there are two aspects to it. There's one what we just looked at, what you can do physically to enhance a unit. So you have a better product, you are basically selling and getting a higher rent for it. The other part is as much the organic rent growth, what we've seen. And what we have put together here is basically the lease trade outs. And the top matrix shows lease trade outs to new leases. So when someone moves out and a new person comes in, these are the ones you're seeing. And to have the historical perspective, we start with a longer time frame back to the summer of 21 and up until the end of last year, where we had 22 leases and it was 4.5% increase on average. And then we take it all the way up to the last 5 leases, where you're starting to see the trend between really the 10 and the 5, saying November, December, where you're seeing it takes off with the 10% plus. Now, the one thing with Hewlin Park Place, and when people are looking at the T12, this is not a property that has suffered tremendously through COVID. It's been a very steady asset. It has not had a ton of bad debt. So it has historically always been a very steady asset, meaning that we're not taking some leases that got nothing to start with, so the percentage is high, but this is true organic rent growth that you've seen on a well-established asset.
Right. Okay. So when we're walking through, all right, sort of historicals to pro forma, what should be sort of the main key items here on the pro forma that people should be looking at in terms of when they're underwriting this deal?
Yeah, so we included the historical numbers in here, and as you can see, going from the left to the right, we have the trailing 12 down to the trailing 1. And if we just look at the overall effective gross income going about 100,000 up, a little bit more than 120,000 up over the last year. Those are some of the things we are putting into our year 1 and continue to build on. Besides that, some of these enhancements we just went through. We have obviously built that in and put 75,000 in extra income. I'm sorry, that's not the right number. 37,800 in additional income from trading off with enhanced units.
Okay.
On the expense side, one important part I would highlight is the insurance. We have underwritten this deal with a lower insurance number. The reason being is on the current 5-year loss run, there are 2 losses that are on it. The last loss will be burned off coming April this year. And so we foresee when you have a clean loss run that the insurance will drop significantly.
All right, let's go to, all right, so pro forma, sort of NOI versus T12. So T12, even T1 was about 730. Pro forma year 1 is about 995 once you sort of upgrade the interiors and then implement the other income. I think the other income was around the parking and washer dryer income, and then reduce some of the insurance once those losses burn off. Okay. All right. So we looked at the deal. I mean, obviously everyone would love sort of Fannie and Freddie debt on this deal, but I guess to start, sort of whisper price on this deal for 100 units is close to 15, right? Is that sort of what
that is correct? The math is a little easier here with having a round number. So it's 150 per door, 15 million.
All right, there you go, 15 million whisper price on this deal. So we looked at it sort of Fannie, Freddie, and then also Bridge. Fannie and Freddie is closer to about $9 million on this deal, just sort of where the net rental is today. So, depending on if you wanted to go fixed or you could go like with a floating rate on Freddie, this would be, 1% prepay if you decided to go that way, and you would have to bring 35, 40% equity in the deal. So if you have a larger down payment, you might have two guys in a tick and they want to buy this deal and want a little bit longer term debt, you could go with Fannie or Freddie. The other option is if you wanted to take it up to maybe 75, 80% leverage, non-recourse bridge is available. We worked on a deal pretty much across the street that just closed in December in this same submarket. So we had a lot of non-recourse bridge quotes for this market. Lenders like this submarket, and the age of this asset is good, and so there would be 75 to 80% loan to cost. You probably be in that 3.5 to 4% range, just based on your experience and what leverage point you wanted to go to. And then you would have to do a 1% prepay, and then they would make you buy an interest rate cap on the deal. So those are sort of your debt options on this transaction. This deal's been on the market for a couple of weeks now. Any sort of follow-up, Jacob, in terms of call for offers on this deal?
Yes, we have actually not set it yet. It has been busy in our industry with a big multifamily conference last week. So we waited to have that discussion for this week. So we should know and be able to communicate out when exactly we will have offers due. I foresee it to be within 2 to 3 weeks.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on, Jacob, and sharing the story. And if you need any further information about this deal, definitely reach out to Jacob, set up a tour, and he'll meet you out in Fort Worth.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, James.
All right. Thanks.